session agenda items. We'll now move on to the deputations for the meeting this evening. We have two deputations. Both are with regards to item 16C, motion of Councillor McGrail, the installation of speed hump in the Dover Beach Park municipal lot. The first one is from Kelly Helbin. I live in Mitchell's Bay with my now 10-year-old son. My parents also live in the Bay. They live in the townhouses directly across from Mitchell's Bay Beach parking lot. My dad turned 72 in August and my mom turned 72 in April. All of the full-time residents of the townhouses are around the same age as my parents, some just a few years younger and some are older. The reason I mention their age is because there are 8 units within that complex and all the residents are 65 years of age and older, all of them enjoying living there. They especially like being able to sit at their front of their unit, which overlooks the water. However, the amount of vehicles that exit the parking lot, spinning their tires and racing out of the lot and then eastbound on Main Street, the main street of Mitchell's Bay, is frightening. I have witnessed it myself. I have even flagged down motorists, asking them to slow down, only to be given the finger as they continue to speed off. Just 2 evenings ago, I watched another woman who was walking with her husband and dog in front of the townhouse complex, flag down a motorist who sped out of the parking lot squealing his tires. The motorist slowed down just enough to tell this couple to, in not so certain terms, to get lost and then drive away. Motorists racing out of the lot, squealing their tires is a daily occurrence. I have been sitting down with my son and my parents in front of the unit and have almost been struck by stones due to the motorist exiting the parking lot at such high rates of speed that their vehicles fishtails, hitting the gravel shoulder, sending stones everywhere. It is scary. It is annoying. It is dangerous. Also, there are quite a few young families that reside in Mitchell's Bay now. My son is one of approximately 10 to 12 kids that are permanent residents of the Bay. Some are a little older than he is, and some just a bit younger. All of us parents have made the decision that our kids are not allowed to ride their bicycles on the weekend and throughout the weeknights. The speeding is just simply out of control. How sad is that? A beautiful village on the water, and we cannot allow our kids to ride their bicycles due to speeding vehicles. I have overheard numerous residents state that they are going to take matters into their own hands, dealing with the speeding, disrespectful motorist. So in saying all of that, I'm requesting that one large speed hump be installed within the entrance and one large speed hump be installed within the exit of Mitchell's Bay Beach parking lot. Installing only 2 speed bumps at this specific location will deter motorists from being able to speed in and out of the parking lot. Having to slow down while entering and exiting the parking lot prevents motorists from gathering the momentum to speed when they enter the lot and also when they exit the lot. 2 large speed bumps really will be life savings. I'm not only requesting this change, I am pleading. Thank you for the time to read my email message. Respectfully, Kelly Helbin.
The next deputation is from the Mitchell's Bay Area Association. Mitchell's Bay has been welcoming friends and family for many years. We pride ourselves on being a community that is safe for all to visit and live within. The new multi-path trail has been a welcome addition to our community, and we thank the municipality in understanding that this was necessary to keep all safe. You see, our community as of late has been struggling with how to deal with the constant speeding in and out of the beach parking lot for which the trail passes by. There is a need to ensure safety for all those who use the multi-path trail. To ensure a slow vehicle entrance and exit from the beach parking lot brings chances of a horrific accident at a minimum. We, the Mitchell's Bay Area Association, support Councillor McGrail's motion to install speed humps in the entrance and exit of the beach parking lot in hopes to eliminate unnecessary speed of vehicles entering and exiting and the complete safety of individuals using the path. Please take this unique request into consideration and allow us and our community some peace of mind. Mitchell's Bay Area Association.
And the next item is the consent agenda. So this evening, we have the following reports that have been pulled for further discussion. Item 13C, pulled by Councillor Hall. Item 16C, pulled by Councillor McGrail, Councillor Latimer, and Councillor Sakachi. Number 17A has been pulled for a presentation by staff. and item 17B has been pulled by Councillor Oche. Therefore, the remaining reports will be approved in one motion under the consent agenda. Those reports are 12A, B, 13A, B, 14A, 15A, 16A, B, and 17C and D.
Councillor Crew and Councillor Wright, can I get you to move the consent agenda, please?
I'd be happy to move that.
I just second it. Thank
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
Just waiting for two more councillors, please.
Judy, I'm trying to vote, but it's Judy.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Foss. How would you like to vote on this?
Yes.
Thank you. Just waiting for one more councillor. Is anybody else witnessing that type of message also? Okay, all votes are in. Motion passes.
Item 13, tender awards.
13C, tender award contract number T21-288, Cemetery Road Improvements.
Councillor Hall and Councillor Finn, can I get you to put this on the floor, please?
Yes, happy to move it, Mayor Caniff. I just have a few questions for staff as well.
Seconded.
Okay, Councillor Hall, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Yeah, just a few questions to staff about this, probably to you, Thomas. The first two questions, I guess. So what is the timeline for the work to start and to be completed? And secondly, what will the impact be for people attending the cemetery during this construction period? I guess specifically when interments are taking place, or ceremonies, or just people visiting the site in general.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Thomas Kelly, General Manager of Infrastructure and Engineering Services. So the first question is, typically after this is awarded, we'll hold a pre-construction meeting. And at that time, it will be determined exactly when the start date will be. Per the terms of the contract, it will be completed this year. The target is October 31st. With respect to the work that is being done out there will be sections, because it will be a construction site. It will be closed to the public, but it's our intention to work around all of the schedules where we can of any interments that may be taking place. So it'll be very much a coordinated effort to move forward with that to ensure there's no disruptions.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Thomas. And my next question, I guess a few weeks ago, Councillor C. McGregor and I received some feedback and questions from the community about levels of service related to grass cutting and weed trimming at the Riverview Cemetery. And obviously, concurrently, as per the council direction, council and staff have been working with a consultant to do a review on municipal services overall. In a virtual meeting recently, I brought up these concerns for the levels of service to the consultant. So I guess my question to you, Thomas, and your team, has staff brought up these concerns to the consultant as well in order for this to be looked at as part of that review process?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the answer is yes, we did so in a much broader scope, though. With all of the services we offer, we often get feedback that the level of service we're currently offering is not sufficient for many members of the public. In this particular case, we have received feedback from the public with regard to the number of cuts, with regard to the overall shape of the cemetery being, they would like to see more flowers, for example. So in the first case with the number of grass cuts, this is an A+ cut. That's consistent across all of our cemeteries. And that results in 22 cuts per year on average. So that's where we stand right now. And that's something that it is a challenge always to increase that because of just the capacity of the supply base we have. All of them are always extremely busy in the May and June time period. Now this year, a bit of an exception as well, because July has been extremely busy and it's perfect growing for grass and weeds. So all of those complaints are directly related to the rate of grass growth, I would say, and the conditions of weather. So if we have very dry weather, the A+ is absolutely fine and probably exceeds the requirements. But we often, again, in those months of May and June, always have such a heavy growth time that it is very difficult to keep up. The second issue is with regard to plants. So right now, we don't have any services designated. We have no specific staff designated for Riverview Cemetery. So this is an idea that we have been promoting, is that if there are any service groups who'd be interested in providing that service and volunteering, we would like to look at a partnership to provide that service. At this time, we just don't have a budget for an additional person to manicure some of the flower beds that are out there.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Thomas. I guess to follow up to that as well, is that the case in some of the other cemeteries in Chatham-Kent? Are there like groups that or committees that have been formed to handle some of that?
Yeah, at times we do have volunteers. Many of them do a lot of good things for cemeteries. Some of them look after their own personal interests, of course, with the grave sites that are there from loved ones. But there are many groups out there that, not just in the cemeteries, but across all CK, which help out with horticulture and cleaning up plants, doing weeding, for example. Most recently, there was a motion put forward where we entered into a partnership with Dresden with the Four Corners fountain, for example. We shared the investment, but all of the maintenance, all of the weed pulling is done by volunteers. And that's one example of a partnership that's worked really well.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for that, Thomas. And I guess my last question, I know, and I think you might answer some of it. Maybe there's some other ideas. I know I had a conversation with Colin recently, understanding that there's some other plans or some ideas underway to address the cleanup and the general tidiness as well. Or is that the suggestion about, possibly looking at community group, or is there any other things that are in the works?
Yeah, what we're doing, thank you again, Mr. Mayor, is that what we're doing is that with the additional asphalt that we're putting in, is that we're going to try to clean up a couple of the major areas. And there's essentially a couple of roundabouts in the cemetery. And some of them have old railroad ties. They've been broken and just wearing out. We also have gardens and hedges that we're going to clean up as part of this project. Again, that's an opportunity. These were established quite some time ago by the Legion. And over time, we've just lost the volunteers to keep them up. And at the same time, for municipality, we haven't added staff to make up the shortfall. So we're going to do everything we can to clean up those areas, to tidy them up, to make them much more maintenance free, to make them much cleaner looking. But again, we're very open. If there was a community group or even individuals who wanted to get engaged and to help us out with some of that work, some of the planting of the flowers, I think we could accomplish a lot more.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for those suggestions, Thomas, and your answers. And I'm really looking forward to this project being completed. I think that'll go a long way into sprucing up the place with this work being done. So thank you for the time, Mayor Canna.
Thank you. You're welcome. And it's we're looking forward to it as well. It's been a long time coming and well overdue. Thank you.
Councillor C. McGregor, followed by Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, and through the mayor. And I guess this would go to Thomas also. Thomas, in your comments that you said to Aaron, you said that with the A+ cutting, that in a dry year that's perfect. And of course, we've not had a very dry June, July here so far. And I know that's got to be a problem with trying to keep up with the grass. But is this something that maybe should come back at budget time to discuss what our A+ ratings are? I know, I always think of grass kind of in the same scenario in the winter as, when we get bad weather and we have to salt more. Do we base it on the lowest common denominator? So an A+ is based on a dry year, and so that's just something maybe for discussion at a later date. And as far as in communications, I do have a number of friends that come from the Legion, and I do know that majority of, I think, the complaints are coming from the Legion. Has there been consideration maybe to sit down with the Legion, because it might be a really good way if Aaron and I and some Legion members and members from your department sat together and have a conversation. It might be a natural venue to strike up the possibility of some volunteer work within the cemetery. And also, I think it would be good to have that conversation with them so that they know the schedule. Rather than just having it announced at council or on our website. I think it would be good to share with them the schedule so that they're prepared. I don't know what special days, like decoration days and different services they may have planned, but that would allow them to maybe make some arrangements or change the dates for anything that they do have planned, so that they can work around the work and the much needed work that we're all looking forward to having done in the cemetery. Thank you.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. While we're talking about the cemeteries, I'd like to compliment staff, which I'm not known to do all the time. I get out to Maple Leaf Cemetery from time to time, not often enough to visit my dear old dad. But I just wanted to comment that it's in good shape, and it looks good. And I understand the challenges with the grass growing in the spring. It's impossible to keep up. But in my opinion, the cemetery is in good shape. It's an awful big place, like it's very, very large. It's very, very old. But I wanted to offer my compliment in that I think it is pretty well taken care of. And I think that this is probably a good time to acknowledge, when we're talking about volunteers for cemetery work, as many of you would recall, Dr. Warwick has done an awful lot of work out there. Former councillor Ann Coulter has done a lot of great work in two different fields out there. But I'm sure I'm missing many, many people. I just felt it was an appropriate time to acknowledge that we do have some great community volunteers that do look after our cemeteries. And one thing I won't forget, Dr. Warwick had mentioned, is probably 10 years ago at council now, that the way a community takes care of their cemetery is really a reflection of that community. So I think we're doing a good job, and I hope to see the continued great work of the volunteers and the staff. Thank you very much, Mayor Kenneth.
With that, we'll put it to vote.
Judy, I still can't vote, but I vote yes.
Great, thank you. I'm just waiting for one more besides Councillor Foss. Okay, all votes are in. Perfect. Motion passes.
Item 16, infrastructure and engineering services.
16C, motion of Councillor McGrail regarding installation of speed hump in the Dover Beach Park Municipal Lot.
Councillor McGrail.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Canna. I guess I'll start by reading my motion again. I, Councillor Jamie McGrail, hereby provide notice that I will bring forward the following motion at the July 12, 2021 council meeting for discussion and voting. Whereas council's priorities and strategic direction for this term includes community wellness, everyone is safe and able to thrive. Whereas council's priorities and strategic direction for this term includes growth, expand infrastructure related to recreational facilities. And whereas these priorities include a dedicated focus on ensuring safe transportation through active transportation options. And whereas expanding trails and active transportation will promote physical activity and a healthy lifestyle, while ensuring everyone has access to social and built infrastructure that enables them to participate fully in their community. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct administration to install asphalt speed humps as required within the Dover Beach municipal lot located at the southwest end of Main Street in the community of Mitchell's Bay in an effort to reduce the speed of vehicles entering and exiting the parking lot. Costs associated with this installation of said speed humps are not to exceed $2,500 and to be funded through the Park Lot Lifestyle Reserve. So I just want to, if I can, paint a picture. I think Kelly said it very good, and the Mitchell's Bay Area Association did too. We have a two-way highway coming into Mitchell's Bay. That's all there is one road going in and out. And when you get to the end there, the southwest end of Main Street, it becomes bottleneck and very heavy flow of vehicles, especially in the summertime. And there's a lot going on in that piece. But the biggest part of this all is that we have this beautiful new bike trail that, we are encouraging everybody to use. And right now we have a really big problem, with the safety of being on that bike trail in that area, as that bike trail passes right in front of where you enter and exit the beach parking lot. And I think that's why I'm asking for this, and Kelly and the Mitchell's Bay Area Association, is because this is truly a hazard because of that bike trail being right in front. And we need to ensure our residents and the users of these bike trails that it is safe to go through and be on that bike trail. And that's the uniqueness of this ask.
Councillor Foss, can I get you to second this, please?
Yes, I'll second it, but I just a question, I guess, to Thomas Kelly. I guess the speed bumps is one solution. Would you suggest if there might be other solutions other than the speed bumps?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a possibility as well. I've been collaborating with my colleague Chris T-Bear on this, and we could look at we're trying to resist increasing our infrastructure in this area, but we talked about maybe a lower cost solution, like maybe even a stop sign. It's really difficult to say. This is a unique request. It's a request we've had in the past, but we've also collaborated with some other municipalities, and it is a very unique request because typically the issues that were just even described in the deputations, we don't deny they exist. We just don't have any ACRs on this at all. The only awareness we have is through the deputation and through Councillor McGrail. So this is where we have struggled with this request because it does add to our infrastructure and our life cycle. And it would be nice if we could have some opportunity to try to measure the scope of the problem and maybe determine a solution that could work not only for Mitchell's Bay, but others as well, other parking lots.
I didn't really have a chance, I guess, to talk to Jamie today regarding this, but I would be open that we send it back to administration to look at the request or another alternative to deal with that. I'm not sure if you're okay with that, Jamie, but in hearing what Thomas Kelly has to say on that, maybe we should give it a more thorough look.
Jamie, are you good with that, or?
My problem with this is that this is as you heard Kelly said, like, these kids aren't even using the bike trail right now because of the necessity of this. I mean, I can flood you with ACRs if you want me to, no problem. But I thought, with Kelly and the Mitchell's Bay Area Association backing this, it gives a community view of what needs to be done. I mean, I can definitely tell them to call in if you want me to do that, but I really think there is a necessity here. And because of the bike trail and it being what it is, I mean, there is a definite necessity here that we need to get this done and need to implement. While I was going through this, I did have support from the Parks and Recs people on this too. So I'm a bit surprised that this is coming up now.
So Councillor Foss, you can make a motion to defer, or you can we can just move on and with the rest of the questions. It's your choice.
I will do that because I think it needs well, I guess one question first. How long would you be, Thomas, dealing with this? Is it going to be a 6 month, or is it going to be a month, or?
Yep.
Or do you have time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We could take this back and target something in September would be preferred. It could be a more complex issue, I guess, that if there is a high level, it's really a compliance issue and it's a dangerous driving issue as well. So it's something that we should really be collaborating with the CK police on. And of course, the concern I know that other councillors have talked to me about is that if we provide it here, then we really set the standard across all of CK. And as of right now, we don't have a standard for this type of request. This is a new and a unique request. So I would try to get it to you back in September, the first meeting in September.
I will make a motion to defer to administration and to have it back in September.
Can I get a seconder for that?
It's Councillor Latimer, Mayor Caniff. I would second that, but I would like to make a comment and ask a question first.
Okay, so if you second it, the question has to be on the deferral.
Yep, that's
all right.
Okay.
So it's seconded by Councillor Latimer. Councillor Latimer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I also I talked to Councillor McGrail today, and she's aware of my concern. Certainly, I have no problem with addressing this immediate safety issue. And if we defer this and not hear about it until September, what are our interim measures that we could do? I know in the past, down in Area O, we've used the speed trailer, we've used police enforcement, we've also used just peer, like extra signage. I don't know if any of that could be taken in consideration, because I hear what Councillor McGrail and her constituents are saying with regard to the immediate safety. And across the summer, with using that trail, we're trying to encourage it. I think we need to do something if we're going to defer this back. I did also talk to Thomas with regard to, were there any police reports or is there any data to back this issue up or action on this issue up on? I think it's important that we do think about what we do here, because whatever we do here, we need to do across Chatham-Kent, because I know in South Kent, we've had a number of safety issues, and we've never, I guess, fully satisfied the residents' concerns up to date. So there's a couple of things in there I'd like Thomas's comments on, and maybe traffic and engineering too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Chris T-Baird, who's done some homework on this as well. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Chris T-Baird, Director of Engineering. So Thomas was right. As of right now, we don't have any real standards per se for parking lots. The general rule right now for parking lots is no different than a driveway entering onto a municipal public highway, where they do not have to be technically signed for any kind of stop sign or anything of that nature. Certain parking lots, of course, for example, the Walmart parking lot, of course, on Pioneer, just south of Pioneer Line, that has a signal there because of the sheer traffic volume entering and exiting that massive parking lot. So this is much different, much smaller scale compared to something like that. There are many parking lots. We have received some requests in the past, but nothing typically from a speeding concern within a parking lot. So in researching other municipalities, this is a very unique request. So we really have to investigate further about what measures we can do, and when we go out there, what it is that we're looking for, and if we're able to even catch anything or witness or see anything firsthand to actually capture and measure and come back with data to support installing something is going to be quite the challenge for us. But we will definitely take a look at this. Like Thomas said, we'll come back in September and see if there's anything that we can apply here. Did that answer the question? Was there another question with that?
Chris, I was wondering, is there any possibility for interim solution with the safety issue? Could we put something there in the interim, or have the speed trailer, or have some police enforcement?
I think our recommendation for the short term would be to work closely with Chatham-Kent Police Services. Even again, putting a speeding trailer or one of our radar trailers out there within a parking lot, based on the length of the actual parking lot, and for vehicles to catch that much speed within the parking lot will be in what to set the actual trailer to denote any kind of speeding concerns in there is going to be quite troubling. So really what we're looking for in working with CKPS is for people just being very disrespectful with their driving habits. And I know there's some notes of vehicles squealing their tires and just being completely disrespectful of the road conditions in the parking lot out there. So really CKPS looking and working with us and helping us with compliance from a safety standpoint would be the recommendation in the short term.
And if I could add, Mr. Mayor, is that's why it's important to really understand what the problem is if the problem is people are squealing their tires, a speed hump is not going to solve that problem. As soon as they're over the speed hump, they can squeal their tires. They can do that on any roadway, any nearby. We have numerous complaints of people squealing their tires at four-way stops, for example, or at lighted intersections and signalized intersections. So it's something that we would like to, it would be our recommendation to capture more data, understand the problem a bit more, understand the severity as well, and then come back with the best recommendation. And it could be, there's lots of options. There could be additional signage. We could do that, something in the interim for that. I can commit to that we ask, something that's very effective is just to put a sign out and to say children playing. It's much more effective that way. You see a number of those signs across CK. We don't typically do that, but in this case, I think we can do that as a short-term measure.
I see a number of, there's 6 hands up. Are all of them to discuss the refer the motion back? Would everyone stay up the next few seconds? I'll assume they are. Okay, I'll start Councillor Pinsino, followed by Councillor Crew, then Councillor Sakachi, then Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Worship. Mine was actually to the original motion, not this one. Sorry.
Councillor Crew.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. This is to this motion. I can support this motion as long as right away, because of the safety concerns that have been brought forward, that we contact the police right away and get some enforcement out there and do what we can in the meantime. Does that need to be part of this? Refer back? I'm sure that staff are going to do that, but I just want to make sure that it's there, and it's not that we just send it back without, making sure that we had something in the interim in writing that we were going to take action.
Thank you, Mayor Camp. This is Chris Deaver here. I can commit to following up with Chatham-Kent Police Services right away through email and request their increased involvement out in Mitchell's Bay.
Good enough for me, Chris. Thank you.
Councillor Sakachi, followed by Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'm gonna as well support Councillor Foss's motion here, and I just kind of wanted to speak to it briefly. We have several areas in South Kent, as Councillor Latimer stated, that are very active in the summertime that we've equally had problems with. And I think that if we did bring a unique situation, I know for one that I would be very, very supportive of putting things in the other areas of concern additionally equal to. We've seen the same kind of concern back when a crosswalk was brought through motion recently, and then we had essentially it became 3 crosswalks. And I think it's very beneficial to look at all aspects of this to ensure that we're looking at this in a way that can be utilized through all our high traffic areas, especially around summer activities and that. And just a quick comment to Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, you did indicate about the child at play signs there. I just wanted to ask you a question, since you did state that. Every time that I've talked to staff in that regard about a child at play sign, I've been shut down very, very promptly with that. So is that something that as a municipality we still utilize? Because I've been told otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we do not utilize it on the right of way, but this is a parking lot, so we have a little more flexibility. I just wanted to send out a warning of some type, and I'd like to collaborate with my team on what the proper signage would be, but something that would at least alert people to slow down, to be careful. There could be bikes crossing, whatever the case may be. Again, this is not, this wouldn't be on the right of way. All of those responses is absolutely correct. On the right of way, we do not use those signs anymore.
Okay. And my last comment is, I think that, in CK, we definitely have some unique communities like Mitchell's Bay, Erie, Shrewsbury. And I think it's important as a whole, as a council, as administration, that we start collectively collaborating on ways we can start to mitigate the traffic challenges and the occurrences that are happening. We hear about the speed related issues in Erie Beach, all the waterfront communities. And I think it would be great to have a kind of a report to address those. So as long as we can have some temporary mitigations in place, I will definitely be supporting Councillor Foss's deferral. Thank you.
Councillor Bondi.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I won't be supporting the deferral. I think this is a pretty simple request. Speed bumps work. They've been around forever. If other areas, if this is going to open up the gates to other areas asking for the same type of thing, well, then we as a council can decide whether they are worthy of these speed bumps. So I'm not really concerned about that. Speed bumps are not exactly new technology. And if there's a need for these things, Councilor McGrail has brought it forward. Let's make a decision tonight. I really don't think we need a report on people speeding. And I've been out there 100 times. People speeding out of that parking lot. Yeah, it's a given. It's set up perfectly for people to do that, right? So a report back would offer us different options on how to calm traffic out there. I think we've got the option. It's a speed bump. And really, I hope council just decides, we don't really have to go the bureaucratic way on this one. We can just make a decision. And if it gets 10 votes, we put in speed bumps. If it doesn't, we don't. So let's just kind of get on with it, I hope. Anyway, that's my opinion. Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, it's Thomas Kelly again. I'd like to clarify, the proposal is not for speed bumps. The proposal is for speed humps. And the difference is a speed hump is a very gradual increase in the elevation of the road and then a decrease. And speed bumps are a real problem for our winter control. So we're looking at a speed hump. I'm not aware of any speed humps within Chatham-Kent at this time.
Excuse me, can I interrupt for 1 second, Mayor Canna? Speed bumps is what I asked for, and it kind of the name got changed to speed humps, but we're talking about the same thing. We're not talking about a gradual incline. We're just talking about, I think Mark was saying some kind of like a rubberized thing. Like, we're not talking about a gradual incline. We're talking about speed bumps.
Okay, well, that's important to know because the motion, I believe, said speed humps. And the difference for us is that speed bumps become a real problem for winter control. So when we have to clear that parking lot in the winter, our public works gave us feedback very strongly that do not put speed bumps in. It's a real problem for them. Typically, they'll scrape it right off, and then we'll have to replace it on a yearly basis.
Mayor Ken, if I could ask a question, Thomas, speed bumps are pretty common on private property, Sobeys, etc. So their winter control maintenance must run into the same problem.
Yes, I believe they do. Yes.
So it's acceptable to them, but not to us. You know what I'm saying? Like if they seem to work in these privately owned places, why not in municipally owned?
Well, if you look at some of the latest technology, like for example, a Walmart area, they've all used speed humps now. For partially because of that very reason. If you see a speed bump, it's usually was done quite some time ago because all of the winter control elements, machinery have some real difficulties with speed bumps.
But if they were installed some time ago and they're still there, I guess they've survived winter control, right?
Well, they've been being replaced on a
Mr.
Mayor, they've been replaced on a regular basis. That's the issue.
Well, are they effective? Because often when we talk about different issues at council, it's always safety first, safety first, safety first. So I don't imagine an asphalt speed bump can be all that costly. And I don't know that you can provide any, firm data, but they're effective to me. I won't speed over a speed bump. Not that I would speed anywhere in a parking lot, but if I was inclined to do that, I would never do it with a speed bump. So can you talk about the effectiveness of speed bumps and the replacement costs? And if they do work,
sorry, can I interject? I guess we're on the motion of whether we should defer or not. I want to defer that debate. If this fails, then we can go to the discussion on that. But if just to stick specifically to this.
Yes, you were correct, Mayor Caniff. I apologize, and I'll stop there.
Councillor Finn, followed by Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question. By deferring this, we're basically stating that there isn't a real need right at the moment. What is our liability should something happen to a child or an adult riding a bike that somebody does not stop? Because $2,500 is a cheap price to pay.
Mr. Taylor, do you want to comment on that?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, could I get the question repeated?
Well, just wondering liability. To me, by deferring this, it's basically saying that there isn't a problem right at this moment because people haven't contacted the police or they haven't contacted City Hall to report. I'm going to state that people don't because the vehicle's already left. First question they ask, can you give me a license plate? Well, at that point in time, nobody is fast enough to pull out a camera or write down a license plate. What is our liability should something happen and somebody does get injured by a car flying out of there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I would say issues of liability are quite complex and they depend on the facts of a given case. It's not something I can really assess in kind of the general sense on general discussion about some concerns of cars leaving this parking lot. So I'm not in a position, unfortunately, Councillor, to provide any sort of concrete advice to council in a manner that would provide any sort of direction on this.
Okay. As I said, $2,500 seems awfully cheap to possibly save somebody's life. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much. I just want to express a little bit of frustration. I'm sure anybody listening at home who heard the conversation surrounding speed hump versus speed bump is shaking their heads as we deal with what words mean. That said, I know there are two speed humps going into the old Ericsson Arena, but those weren't my comments. My question was about the staff hours involved referring this back to administration. How many hours are we looking at to investigate this issue?
Mr. Mayor, it's Thomas Kelly. I really need to collaborate with my colleague, Chris. It's not, I would say it would be, in the range of 10 hours.
10 hours, okay. And the cost potentially of any interim action between now and when this comes back,
I have a tendency to agree with Councillor Finn that we're talking about $2,500 on one hand to install these speed bumpy humps, and then we're going to potentially raise that cost by going the bureaucratic route. So I believe that one way or the other, we should deal with this issue tonight, and I won't be supporting the deferral. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll put this to vote.
Councillor Foss, were you able to vote this time? Yes, I see all 18 are in, so motion fails 8-10.
Okay, we're back to the original motion then. I know there's some hands up. Councillor Pinsino, I know you were one of them that oh, you're on mute, Councillor Pinsino.
Thank you, Worship. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to support this motion. I think I spent a lot of time at Mitchell's Bay, and that is a racetrack coming out of there. And we've spent tons of money building these trails to draw people in. And honestly, it's not safe there. It is only a handful, of drivers that are doing it, but it ruins it for everybody. I think by putting these bumps in there, I think you're going to slow down the traffic. It's going to be calming, and it's going to be safer. And honestly, for $2,500, I can't believe we've had this long of a conversation over $2,500, considering where we spend other dollars. Anyway, I'm going to support the original motion, and I think it's needed.
Any other questions? Councillor B. McGregor.
Just trying to clarify, are we still talking speed humps, or are we talking speed bumps, or what's the, I know there was some maybe lack of clarity around what's the final desired installation.
Mayor Canna,
Yes, I think Councillor McGrail said that she wanted the speed bumps.
At this point, I think I'm going to leave that to Mark McFadden, who suggested that, and what is proper, if it's humps or bumps or whatever you want to call it. I will leave it to him, but it's not to exceed the 2,500. I'm going to keep it at that, because at this point, I'm really just awestruck that this whole conversation's coming up, and I just had no phone call or conversation about it until tonight. So I'm going to resort back to my conversation with Mr. McFadden, and I'm gonna leave it up to him and his best thoughts of what should be there.
Any other questions?
Mayor, can I add a comment
Yes.
about the hump versus bump? So the conversation that was had with Mark McFadden, my manager here in engineering, the recommendation is to proceed with a hump. That's kind of in collaboration and consultation with our Public Works Department, again, for winter control purposes. We did do an analysis and determine that the 2,500 is approximate value to install a little bit more gradual of a bump, which essentially is the hump terminology that we're using here. And that's really just to help with saving on the ongoing maintenance and the wear and tear of our winter control vehicles, rather than a more sharp, drastic bump that would be placed that you commonly see. A hump is really kind of your new technology. It's being widely recommended across Ontario now as a form of traffic control. And it's something that we see is lasting a lot longer because it is more gradual. It's not as sharp. You're not getting that wear and tear and that continual beating up due to vehicles, and as well as winter control purposes. So that's why we recommended the word hump. It gives us a little bit more flexibility to explore options that work with our Public Works Department for maintenance purposes.
Perfect.
All right. Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes.
Item 17, finance, budget information, technology and transformation.
17A, 2020 audited financial statements. We have a presentation from Matt Torrance, the Director of Financial Services.
Thank you, Judy. Just give me a second here to get my presentation up, please.
Okay, Matt, we can see your presentation on the screen.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Good evening, Mayor Caniff and Council. Today, sorry, I should introduce myself. My name is Matt Torrance. I'm the Director of Financial Services. Good evening, Mayor Caniff and Council. Today, I will provide you with a brief overview of our 2020 audited financial statements. 2020 was the third of our 5-year contract with Deloitte LLP for the municipality's annual audit. Chatham-Kent received an unqualified audit opinion, meaning that Deloitte has concluded that our financial statements present fairly the results of Chatham-Kent's operations and its financial position according to generally accepted accounting principles. During tonight's presentation, we will provide a brief overview and items of interest on our financial statements, including debt, reserves, accrual versus cash accounting, and our financial position. Chatham-Kent's consolidated financial statements consist of 5 fully consolidated boards and commissions, including the Library, Police, Public Utilities Commission, Public Health, and Drainage, along with 1 government business entity, which is Integris. In accordance with Public Sector Accounting Board, the consolidated financial statements must include the following 4 statements. The statement of financial position, which is also known as the balance sheet, and this includes a listing of the municipality's assets and liabilities and accumulated surplus. The statement of and accumulated surplus is commonly referred to as the income statement. It's comprised of Chatham-Kent's revenues and expenses. The statement of changes in net financial assets includes capital asset transactions as well as changes in other financial assets. And then finally, a statement of cash flows, which is simply a record of our sources and uses of cash. So on the statement of financial position, we have highlighted, we have $35 million in cash that was transferred from our general bank to CIBC Wood Gundy Investments, where it was invested in principal protected notes. A requirement of the public sector accounting standards is that obligatory reserve funds be reported as deferred revenue. This requirement is in place as provincial legislation restricts how these funds may be used, and under certain circumstances, these funds may possibly be refunded. In 2020, the municipality recorded $6.5 million increase in deferred revenue. This was due to a $3 million deferral of the Safe Restart funding, $1.5 million from the federal gas tax, and $800,000 from prepaid taxes. And finally, our debt has decreased by $10 million, which I'll discuss over the next few slides. So the municipality's long-term debt totals $57 million. Of this, 33.8 is attributable to the Public Utilities Commission, and the debt payments are funded through water and sewer rates. Of the remaining 23.2 million, 13.1 is covered by senior government funding, and this leaves $10.1 million to be funded by the general tax base. This equates to roughly $95 debt per resident of Chatham-Kent. As you can see on this graph, the municipality continues to pay down our debt, reducing our debt load from 161 million in 2010 to 57 million in 2020. If the municipality does not incur any new debt, this will be further reduced to 47 million by 2021. The Public Utilities Commission debt is represented in blue. It has decreased from 89 million in 2010 to 34 million in 2020. Municipal general tax base and other senior funded debts represented in green have decreased from 72 million in 2010 to 23 million in 2020. This graph depicts the trend in our reserve balances, is reflective of our net contributions to reserves, which are the contributions into reserves less the use of reserves. In 2020, the reserves continued to grow, increasing our reserve to debt ratio to 3.5 to 1 in 2020, which is up from 2010, sorry. up from 0.4 to 1 from 2020. In 2020, our reserves increased by 22 million, while operating expenses decreased by 3 million. This caused our total reserves as a percentage of expenses to increase from 2019. This financial indicator shows us how much money is set aside for our future needs. The increase in reserves can be used to assist council with meeting their strategic objectives and providing the ability to fund major capital projects while incurring little to no further debt. As per public sector accounting standards, Chatham-Kent needs to present our financial statements on an accrual basis. This slide displays the reconciliation from an accrual surplus to a cash surplus. As an example, in accrual basis accounting, amortization for capital assets is recorded as an expense, whereas under cash basis, amortization is not a cash outlay. The cash outlay is at the time when the asset is purchased. Chatham-Kent's annual budget is prepared on a cash basis, as we are concerned with the amount of funds we receive and how we intend to spend those funds in the year. Our financial statements, conversely, are prepared on an accrual basis to ensure that we are in compliance with the aforementioned standards. The municipality's 2020 cash surplus of $3.8 million is almost entirely attributable to the use of safe restart funding to offset lost revenues of approximately $2.8 million and COVID-related expenses approximately $1 million. A few examples of lost revenue would include $1.1 million in lost casino revenue and $750,000 in provincial offenses court revenues. Net financial assets is measured as financial assets less total liabilities. A positive net financial asset number indicates the amount of resources available for future needs. A negative number, or net debt, would indicate the amount of future revenue that is required to pay for past spending decisions. Our $203 million net asset position indicates that our assets exceed our liabilities, and hence our past transactions are not negatively impacting our future revenue requirements. This increased by $45 million from 2019. This graph highlights the trend in Chatham-Kent's net financial position. Chatham-Kent was in a net financial debt position prior to 2014. As you can see, it has improved to a strong net financial asset position, increasing by $272 million over the last decade. And I'll leave it at that. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Councillor Solomon and Councillor B. McGregor, can I get this on the floor, please?
Yes, I move the acceptance of the financial statements.
And I'll second it.
Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
Waiting for one more.
Madam Clerk, Councillor Sakachi, I'm not able to submit my my vote. It is a yes.
Great, thank you. All votes are in and motion passes. Moving on to 17B, 2020 final operations variance.
Councillor Oche and Councillor B. McGregor, can I get you put this on the floor, please?
I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
Councillor Oche, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question for Steve Brown, if he's free. I'm just wondering, of the reserve for strategic development, would that be able to be used, say that once we're done the study along Talbot Trail, and if we do not get the full amount or any of the amount of the money that we need to do all of Talbot Trail, would we be able to use that towards fixing, actually paving one of the concession roads from Coatsworth Road to Stevenson Road?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Steve Brown, Director of Budget and Performance Services. The amount going into the Strategic Development Reserve of $1.5 million is for future use of council at their discretion. So if council were to decide that that money should be used for the upgrade of that road, then yes, it could be.
Thank you very much. I'm positive that won't be enough, but that would be a good start. Thank you.
Thanks.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes.
Closed session reports. Councillor C. McGregor.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I am just, there we go. Sorry. I had up the wrong message from Meredith, who sends me the closed session report. So here we go. So the closed session report for today, all members were present. Council directed administration on proposed disposition of land by the municipality with regard to offer to purchase property identification number 008460246 Hickory Road, Community of Whately, Section 2392C of the Municipal Act 2001. Thank you. And I so move it.
Councillor McGrail, can I get you to second that?
I sure will.
Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes.
The clerk pointed out that I did skip over notice of motion. I don't have any sent in advance. Just want to confirm there aren't any. Hearing none, we'll go to non-agenda business. Councillor C. McGregor, followed by Councillor Hall.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I just have some questions regarding our gravel and calcium, where we're at, I guess, in the program. I've had a question as to when a road will be finished, and is there some way that they can find out when it will be done? So I'm just wondering if I could get an update of where we're at in that program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Thomas Kelly, GM of IS. So as far as all of our new gravel has received, is been distributed, has received dust suppressant. We are now continuing with the dust suppressant. All of the south of Chatham-Kent is done. And we do have some areas yet to be finished in Chatham Township, Dover about 5% to complete. And Wallaceburg, we have about, we're not quite halfway through Wallaceburg yet. So that's where we stand. Wallaceburg, I know the team has been waiting, probably sometime next week. We're waiting for these, some of the moisture that we've received recently, and it looks like it's going to rain a lot as well. So we do apply this when weather is dry, and based on the forecast, that's been holding things up. If all goes well and the weather forecast holds, we will continue operations in the Wallaceburg area next Wednesday.
Okay, and I will pass that along. If they wish further information on that, is there somebody they should be directed to, or just through the CK info to try and find out further information?
Yes, they could send an email to ck311@chatham-kent.ca, or they can just dial 311 and we can help them out from there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hall, followed by Councillor Latimer.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. Just a quick announcement here. In recognition of the Sinclair Region Conservation Authority's 60th anniversary, they are launching the first ever St. Clair Challenge virtual fundraiser. It's an event that will encourage watershed residents to get out and explore the natural areas in the region while raising funds to support local conservation efforts. You can challenge yourself or your family or your team to run, hike, bike, or paddle along trails or waterways located within the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority watershed. So this takes place, it started on July 1st and it runs until August 31st, and it's anywhere in the St. Clair Region watershed. You can log on to www.raceroster.com and search St. Clair Challenge for more information and to register. Thank you.
Councillor Latimer, followed by Councillor Scotchy.
Yes, just a reminder to all who are listening to have your say starting tomorrow with the virtual community meetings. Ward 1, followed by Ward 2 on Wednesday, July the 14th, right up until Thursday, July the 22nd. So we're looking forward to getting everyone's input on how they feel our municipal government services, whether they are effective or not, and whether they have some recommendations for us and how they can be delivered more efficiently or effectively within our budget and resource capacities. So look forward to having everyone's input and hearing over the next week or so.
Councillor Scotchy.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. Just one quick question to Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, I apologize for not asking this earlier. Just a quick question in regards to the ACR process. Do you know roughly when the new process will be taking place, and will start to see from that process?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right now, through the customer service team, we're targeting in the fall, September, October time period.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Pinsino, followed by Councillor Oje.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question through you to Thomas. The bridge coming out of Thamesville heading south, that branding bridge we put in like a year ago, there's a serious bump and it's getting worse almost every time I go across it. Do you know if anything's in the works to have a look at that, or have the person that did the construction come back and repair it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of the issue and happy to look at it though. Absolutely. I don't know if it's been called in at all, has it, or is this?
I don't know whether it's been called in or not. I just know every time I go across it's getting worse, and they put up a sign now saying there's a bump there. So I guess as a municipality, we're aware of it.
Okay. Okay, if that's the case, then I know that the team's going to look at it. If you could give me a day, I'll get back to you tomorrow on this.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll get you some
Thank
time
you.
and we're going to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Oje.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of things. One is the have your say meetings. Was this brought up to council? I just found out about it on social media today.
Mayor Caniff, I perhaps can answer that for you. It's Gord Quinton, Chief Financial Officer. So this is the KPMG efficiency review meetings that we had that council had approved. The report was approved by council in May. It has a very tight timeline for the possibility of getting provincial funding, so that the community consultation period had to happen in late June and July. So that's what's happening right now.
Okay.
With the meetings that Councillor Latimer outlined over the next 2 weeks.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And then I guess the second thing would be, I know we are behind in ACRs. Like as far as people going out and inspecting complaints on people's yards and that. Do you know how far behind we are? I've had someone call me about 7 times now, and I put the ACR in, probably 2 months ago, or close to it anyways. Are we catching up at all on those?
Mr. Mayor, it's Thomas. So with regard to, I presented at the beginning of 2020, at that time we had 2,000 ACRs outstanding. And through the budget process, council authorized $700,000. 1 month ago, that figure was at 365 ACRs. But that's for the IES team. If you're referring to property standards, I will pass that question over to my colleague, Bruce McAllister.
Thank you.
Bruce, would you be able to comment, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, what was the specific request about there? One more time, sorry, Councillor.
Okay, I received some calls from a gentleman on his neighbor's weeds, which are actually about 10 feet tall or higher. They're, I'm trying to think of the name of them. The invasive species that's growing in the ditches and along the lake and everywhere else. It's kind of a sight problem for the neighbor, apparently, pulling out of his driveway. I called it in 1.5, 2 months ago.
Okay, Councillor, if you could give me a date to look into that specific one, maybe contribute out of the specifics just to see if this is a, property standards or even a long grass issue as well, by the sounds of it.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering,
okay,
for other people with the same type of complaint, is that where we're running on stuff like that?
Yeah, I can get some data for council on that. But as we noted to council, probably about a month ago, we are prioritizing those requests based more on health and safety versus the high volume our team has of building permits right now. So
right.
That's where we're at.
I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just wondering, just in case I'm sure I'm going to get another call from this gentleman, and I'm not sure if that's happening with other places, but thanks very much.
Okay.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mary Caniff. And I think Bruce might have just answered my question. I know there might be some frustration there was from me, maybe from others on council as well, and from the public, that when people do contact us as their local representative, and either by email or by phone, so we get this, typically a complaint, it's not usually a compliment, and then we send it in and an ACR is created. And I think that I feel ineffective, and I think people in the public feel like, well, they've just been put on a list. And if people go to the effort to contact their councillor or their mayor, I would hope that, I do understand maybe the system is going to be tweaked and changed to some degree, but I would like to see a response to people when they do, go to the effort to contact their councillor, again, via either email or phone or by letter writing, which is very unusual. But rather than just get a response through an email saying ACR has been created and we'll get there when we can. If we could, I know it's more work, but, maybe personalize the return message and say, this is where you are in the queue. Obviously, some issues are more important than others, which is what I was referring to, as Bruce, I think, did answer the question very successfully, that we do, or you guys do prioritize these concerns because some are obviously more important than others. But if there would be a way that we could just kind of personalize the ACR thing rather than, okay, you called it in, we're going to put you on a list, you're now number who knows. I just think the response to the taxpayer that gives the effort to, take the time to call it in should be, maybe offered a little bit more than just something's been created and we'll get there eventually. But, I'll leave that in your good hands. It's a little out of my league, but I do think the ACR process should be a little more responsive to the taxpayer. But we'll see where the modifications go. But I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you very much, Mayor Caniff.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make some comments, it's Thomas Kelly. So I just wanted to clarify that the assignment of the ACR number is only the first step in the process. And Councillor Bondi, as a rule, anything that comes through council in an email, we respond 100% to every single person. If there is one we miss, I would like to know about it. We're very diligent on that. We're always checking. And the ACR, when we say assign an ACR number, that just allows us to put all the relevant information into one database. And just so you know, we're getting 40 of these per day. So it's 200 per week, 10,000 a year. It's a huge number to manage. And it allows us to prioritize based on safety. But anybody who takes the time to write into council, 100%, our goal is 100% compliance, that we will get back to them. Absolutely. I'd like to also maybe pass this over to my colleague, Kathy Hoffman, and to talk about some of the improvements that we're going to make with the new CRM process, the customer relationship management process. That's the earlier question that we're working on to get in before the end of the year. We're also making some improvements in that regard, and maybe she'd like to highlight some of those.
Could I just respond, Mayor Kenneth?
Sure.
Thank you. Tom, sorry, I didn't want to sound disrespectful in that. You do respond every time. And I believe that when you do respond, it's always an email from me. You do respond, and the taxpayer is copied. So I'm not complaining about that. Like and you respond quickly, like within an hour usually. So thank you for that. My concern was that the response is that an ACR has been created, rather than responding with some sort of acknowledgement of what the problem is. Rather, you know what I'm saying? Like if you call something in and you say, okay, we got it, we're going to do it, we're going to take care of this eventually. I just feel that there could be, and maybe Kathy's going to offer some insight into this, maybe just more of an acknowledgement of the problem, because people are you know, as a counselor and all of us, we're on the receiving end of some very frustrated people with some really big concerns. And when we, and thank you for your response, but offer back that an ACR, which typically is an acronym that nobody understands, like those people, that doesn't seem satisfactory. We haven't acknowledged what the problem is. We haven't said, oh, well, gee, you're going to be prioritized, or, you know, maybe you're not, because maybe this, you know, tall grass beside you is not exactly the end of the world. Maybe a camper and a guy with 17 dogs in his backyard might be a little more important. That was my point, not your responsiveness, because you guys do a great job. And again, Thomas, almost within an hour, you get back to me every single time. It was just, my point was that we're not acknowledging the problem to the taxpayer that's gone to an effort. And that was what I was trying to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bondi, for your questions and your comments. Part of the improvements that are going to be seen with the new CRM solution that my colleague Thomas Kelly mentioned is enhanced ways of tracking what the issues are when they come in, so that there will be status updates available for our ratepayers who are filing their claims or their concerns and complaints, so they'll be able to check a status and see where things are at. There will also be the opportunity for them to supply us with additional information. For example, if they happen to have photos available of a site that they're at and they think that that's relevant and germane to some of to the complaint that they're providing, they'll be able to attach those for us to be able to have. So the whole idea of the CRM system is to be able to address some of these things that you've been talking about, to be more user-friendly, to be more detailed, and provide a better customer service experience overall for our customers. Does that help?
Very much through you, Mayor Kemp. Thank you very much, Kathy. That'll be a great improvement. That's almost like a tracking number from something you bought on Amazon, right? You'll be able to kind of see the progression. So that's a great thing to hear. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor Kenneth.
You're welcome.
Just one last thing I want to add, a very positive note. We're very proud in Chatham-Kent to be sending 6 Olympians to the Tokyo Olympics later this month. 2 of them were born and raised and no longer live here, but they're going to the Olympics, and 4 that live here. And I just, Miranda A.M., she's in the women's basketball team. She was born in Chatham. She lives in London now, but a proud Chatham-Kent person. Chris Von Mortals is born in Ridgetown originally and now lives in the U.S., but he's doing dressage. And we got 4 people. Bridget Carlton from Chatham. She's in the basketball team. Brianne Nicholas, she's from Blenheim and playing rugby. Nick Wams from Bothwell in cycling. And Alex Hindman from Blenheim. He's in the men's hand cycle. So we wish all of them great luck, and we're all very proud of each and every one of them as council and as Chatham-Kent. So with that, we'll go to The first and second reading, Councillor Solomon, Councillor Pinsino.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Anyone opposed? Hearing none. The third and final reading, Councillor Foss, Councillor Harrigan.
Also move.
I'll second.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. And resolution of council. Councillor C. McGregor and Councillor Sakachi can wrap it up for us.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I would move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held on Monday, July 19th, 2021, and that the Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act.
Through you, Mayor Caniff, I will second that.
Seeing no opposition to that, we'll close her out for the night. Thanks, everybody.